Welcome back to this week's episode of On the Level Leadership. If you are new here, my name is Tammy and I'm a leadership and career growth coach. I'm here to help you be the best leader you can be so you can grow in your career. I recently read in a Forbes article that a good 70% of people that find themselves in leadership positions feel the feelings of isolation and loneliness, and that a full 3/4 of those people don't actually seek help to get themselves through this. Turns out that feeling lonely and isolated not only affects our mental health, but it affects our ability to lead. So in this video, I'm going to share 5 ways in which loneliness or isolation can show up in your world as a leader, why you don't want to do it, and what you can do about it. Well, if you're new here, welcome to the channel. And if you're not new here, you're probably going to realize that I'm in a slightly different studio space. And I'm going to apologize up front if any of this sounds a bit echoey, as there's still some hard surfaces for me to deal with in this room as I transition to a new spot. Again, welcome to this. Loneliness is a sensation that is not actually very uncommon. In fact, it's quite common amongst leaders. Whether you're building a business or whether you're leading a team somewhere, the fact is that many of us actually do feel this. But leaders won't admit to it because the feelings of isolation and loneliness can be seen as a weakness, and people don't want to express that weakness. Unfortunately, leaders often feel that isolation is just part of the job, that they have to know everything, they have to do everything, and that they have to succeed without ever complaining about anything. They can hold the proverbial world on their shoulders and not be willing sometimes to let that go or to seek help. We often think of loneliness as being sad or feeling depressed, but in fact, it can show up in a variety of different ways, which is what I'm bringing to the video today because it can show up in ways that you might not even consider. So for me, when I was an executive, my loneliness didn't stem from being alone because I was surrounded by people. It came from not having a place where I could seek advice and counsel without feeling like there might be an agenda or exposing myself or being vulnerable to people in the senior management positions, for example. So here are the 5 ways that loneliness can show up for you as a leader. The first sign is that you're isolating yourself. This might seem counterintuitive. It's like, well, Tammy, if I'm isolated, why would I isolate myself? Well, the fact is that leaders sometimes will isolate themselves professionally and personally because they just don't feel like they have a place that they can go. They'll withdraw. Things like corporate engagements and events are just not something you want to go to. You don't want to risk exposing yourself by talking about something in those locations or with those people. So you'd rather just not go and have a risk of somebody asking you how things are going and you spilling the beans somehow about things you're stressed about. Additionally, what can happen is that these same leaders then become absentee leaders. This can be super frustrating for the team. I know when I had an absentee leader, I was super frustrated by not being able to make headway on projects or program areas because my leader just wasn't present or available for me to have a conversation with. It can really create a sense of disconnection in the office, especially if the leader is particularly good at the disappearing act. Sorry, I didn't mean to leave you hanging there. So if you find yourself isolating or seeking alone time at work or at home, chances are you might be a lonely leader. The second sign that you may be a lonely leader is that you're not seeking mentorship or any kind of assistance, professionally speaking. As I said before, we often feel like we have the weight of the world on our shoulders. And so often, wrongfully, we feel that we have to know everything and do everything ourselves. This is a false narrative, and it's one that's rooted in fear. You know, the fear of being exposed as a fraud or that you don't know what you're doing, the fear of failure, the fear of vulnerability and what that might mean for your career. I personally didn't want to go to my senior management for assistance or mentorship because I didn't want them to see me as somebody who needed to be career limited or caged in some way or not grown. And from a team perspective, really felt that I needed to support them and be their rock, and therefore I couldn't go to them for help for anything, or at least that's what I felt. I would rather keep to myself to kind of figure things out. Unfortunately, mentorship is the key to success as a leader. To be honest, you want to be able to go to somebody who's a couple layers above you so that you can get the help that you need in order to move forward on what you're trying to attempt or trying to achieve. Not seeking help actually exacerbates the loneliness feelings. The third sign that you might be a lonely leader is that you're emotionally volatile or you're having a lot of mood swings. A leader who feels isolated can easily become angry, impatient, and really sensitive to criticism. These mood swings can affect everything in their lives. We are whole people. It can affect your professional relationships. It can affect your relationships at home. And quite frankly, it can career limit you. It did for me. When I was burned out and I was leading a large team, what I found was when I became more and more isolated and less willing to get help because I was feeling more and more exposed and vulnerable, my mood swings became quite erratic and I became aggressive, downright hostile with my senior leadership. And that derailed my career for at least 2 to 3 years until I got myself in check. If you're feeling emotionally volatile or you're feeling that your mood's out of whack or that you feel like you just can't keep it under control, chances are you're a lonely leader. leader. The fourth sign that you might be a lonely leader is that you're struggling to make decisions. Loneliness really exacerbates the feeling of being in an echo chamber, because the people below you are just going to give you what you want to hear so that they don't upset you, and aren't going to give you all of the various diverse opinions that you need in order to make informed decisions. Not engaging senior management can also create problems for you, because if you're not engaging senior management, how can you get clarification on what's needed when you're showing up and you're presenting and briefing up? If you don't give them what they need, it's going to fall flat, and it will actually discourage them from giving you this kind of work going forward if you can't show up in a way that they want you to. So being willing to seek clarification, or to be able to ask what the priorities are, or to be able to understand the issues, is going to help you make decisions. But if you've isolated yourself, and if you're feeling lonely and not capable of going to the ones around you for support, then you're going to have a heck of a time making decisions. For me, it showed up as analysis paralysis. I just couldn't make decisions. Now, I'm a pretty good decision maker, but there were times in my career where I felt very isolated and alone, and I didn't know where to go next because I didn't want to make a mistake. So I really struggled with decision making. The fifth and final sign that you might actually be a lonely leader is that you lack empathy, or that you're lacking the ability or the desire to understand the others around you or their positions. Lonely leaders find themselves in survival mode. And unfortunately, when you're in survival mode, it's really hard for you to empathize with other people's challenges because you're having your own set of challenges. It can really detach you from your team members, especially those that report to you. And that lack of empathy will ultimately result in a lack of collaboration and a breakdown of the team dynamic. So if you do have any of these signs, or you have any signals that maybe you're a lonely leader, what do you do about it? The first thing you want to do about it is acknowledge and reflect. It's really important to acknowledge these feelings that you're having of isolation and loneliness, because you can't ignore them. You know, it's like the creditors. If you stop paying the bills, you're okay for a month or two, but eventually the creditors are going to come calling and saying, hey, where are our payments? Where's our money? You know, you can't ignore these feelings. They tend to bubble up, and they'll show up in different ways, as we've just described. Make sure you pay attention, tune in, and acknowledge what's going on with you. When lonely feelings come up, it's a signal to really do some deeper dives, some going inwards and figuring out what part of me is needing something and what does it need in this moment. Ask yourself what you're learning about yourself in this process. When I was feeling this way, I found that sometimes it helped to journal or just go for a walk and mull things over. The second thing you want to do is find your tribe. Now, as humans, we are social beings. I know that sometimes it's hard to accept that, but it's true. We are social beings. And there are sort of three sub areas that you can consider to avoid or circumvent the loneliness feature of being a leader. The first group is the peer group. The peer group is where you go and find managers or colleagues that are at very similar levels to you, maybe in a similar space from a career perspective, who maybe have gone through things that you're going through right now. And you can use them as a sounding board, and they can use you as a sounding board, and you can help each other out in a collaborative manner. You don't want people that you're competing for in the organization. If you have a colleague that would be competing for the same senior leadership position as you, there could be an agenda there. So you don't want to include them. You don't want somebody who's going to derail you in some way. You want a group of trusted peers that you can include in that. No friends, no family. As much as they love you, they don't always know what's best for you. But peers, people who've been through the same things as you, can really help you out and be really supportive. The second way you can grow your tribe is through what's called a mastermind. You can create your own, or you can pay for one. I have a video that I did last week on the power of the mastermind, and I also am going to include that in the show notes below, and there'll be a card at the top here for you. Whether you create one yourself or whether you pay to belong to one, they're a very, very powerful tool, because there are professionals usually who have like-minded sort of trajectories in their world, very action and forward oriented, who are there to help be accountable and help you move things forward and identify action steps and to be a good sounding board. Oftentimes, everybody in that group has a variety of expertise and experience, which is great, because one person may have gone through something that you need help with, and maybe somebody else in the group is going through something that you've already managed, and you can help them with it. It becomes a very collaborative space that is a super safe space. I hate to use that phrase, but it's an area where you can be yourself and not feel vulnerable with the exposure of your challenges. The third way you can grow your tribe is creating a personal board of directors. Now, I personally haven't done this, but I've heard that this notion is sort of like being the CEO of your life, right? Where CEOs have boards of directors that they go to when they have questions or when they want to strategically plan the direction of a company. It's sort of the same thing. You have a board of directors, and ideally you would have individuals there that are a variety of different skill sets or a variety of different expertise expertise that can really support you to be more of a creative and consultative circle of individuals. And the third and final way you can overcome these feelings of isolation and loneliness is to seek professional help. And there's two ways you can do this. The first is to get a coach. I'm biased towards coaching because I'm an executive coach. And it's not because I need or want your business that I'm saying this. I know that it works. It works for me. It worked for me in my career and the growing of my business. I am still being coached and I coach. And those that are in my client service realm they themselves are seeing various levels of success, from being promoted to gaining confidence. There's a variety of different things that a coach can help you with. Making decisions is also part of that equation. We're your accountability partner, but you're also your strategic planning partner. We're here to help you figure out what you want to do best based on what feels best for you. Depending on the study you find online, the ROI, or the return on investment for executive coaching in organizations, can run anywhere from 37% to well over 200%. Coaching works, folks. And finally, it'd be irresponsible of me to not address the elephant in the room, which is the notion of mental health or mental health illness or dysregulation. The fact is that nearly half of CEOs or high-level executives will experience some form of depression or mental health struggles during the course of their career. Business leaders have depression rates at more than double the population. There's a lot of pressure on leaders and organizations, and it shows up in the statistics. So if you're thinking that your mental health is at question, or that maybe you might be depressed, or worse yet, you're starting to wonder what the world would be like without you in it, time to turn off this YouTube video right now and go get yourself some help, some real help from a mental health professional. Don't be watching YouTube videos. If you feel depressed or if you feel suicidal, this is not the place for you. You need to go to professional help and get what you need so that you can become healthy again. And I would like to add that I've had clients that are doing both. They work with the therapist to deal with the feelings, their past traumas, to let go of things, to work through their emotional responses and reactions. And they work with me as a coach to help them look forward, identify action steps within their professional realm. We don't go through the therapy route. We're not doing cognitive behavioral therapy type of techniques. We're doing goal setting, and I'm there to be your accountability coach and to help you professionally find ways to keep moving you forward. Fact is we're quite complementary. We can really help each other out in helping the client move beyond the state that they're in. So that's it. Those are the 5 signs that you might actually be a lonely leader, and how to manage or overcome this loneliness that you might be feeling as a leader. If you like this kind of content, make sure that you subscribe to this YouTube channel or follow this podcast. And if you have any comments about, have you ever felt lonely at work? Did you ever feel frustrated by the fact that you had nowhere to go to? And how did you overcome your sensations of loneliness? I'd love to see the comments down below. Thanks again for watching On the Level Leadership. Until next time.